Fastify is the #1 most preferred web framework that you would use in Node.js to deploy your brand new app in 2024. If you want to build a new web server API, microservices, endpoint, you're going to want to use Fastify. It is the most recommended because it's so simple, clean, and fast. This is by far my favorite. I'm going to jump right to it. This is the part that I love the most. Just check this out right here. We are looking at a web server framework that makes it super easy for us to get up and running. Look, there is a fastify.get, which is the request method, the path, and then we've got the handler, and then you return your JSON response object. And that's what you do, and then you just say run the server, you initialize the server. That's it. That's super clean. Going forward, I understand kind of how this is going to work. If I want to do a post endpoint on the index, I would change this get to a post. It's so super clean and simple. If you're going to start with a brand new web server, you're going to want to use Fastify, especially if you're using Node.js and you're in the JavaScript world. It's amazing. So the whole point is efficient server implies a lower cost of the infrastructure, better responsiveness under load, and happy users. That's what it means. Your end users are going to be happy. They're your customers. You want them to be satisfied. How can you efficiently handle the resources of your server, knowing that you are serving the highest number of requests possible without sacrificing security validations or handy development? That's what Fastify is for. It's a web framework highly focused on providing the best developer experience with the least amount of overhead and powerful plugin architectures. This is amazing. It's inspired by Hapi and Express, which are really great web frameworks as well that we get with Node.js for making other kinds of APIs. This is just the next level. They wanted it to be fast, minimal, and easy to use. From a developer happiness perspective, Fastify is your top choice. Fastify is one of the top Node.js web frameworks known for its speed. Specifically, if you're building a web server, it better be fast. The world today, we've got so many users online, and the more power you can leverage from the hardware, the better you can offer end users experiences that are really, really fast. Fastify is that web framework for you. I was actually looking on Reddit. Let's actually take a quick look at Reddit real quick. I was like, if you were to start today a new Node.js backend, what framework would you choose? And I was looking, and it was Fastify, Hono, Koa, Adinos, Meteor, NestJS. Now, it turns out the top 2 answers, are you going to guess? There are top 2 answers. I was looking to see how many came back if I searched for Fastify from the respondents here. So we got a lot of respondents on Reddit. And the idea is only 2 came out on top. Fastify and NestJS is another one. So between these two, Fastify and NestJS, they were the top 2. I was kind of curious. So we saw 23 Fastifies, and then how many NestJSs did we see? Let's just give this a shot. Nest. Let's actually just go Nest. So we see a lot of nests in here as well. 45. So it was almost, someone's using it multiple times, right? So it's kind of hard to count a fair amount based on the number of respondents. It is between Nest and Fastify. Now, it turns out that Fastify is the top choice from a speed perspective. And I think that's actually pretty critical for a business these days, is to really focus on performance and getting the best out of it you can. So some of the features that Fastify supports is it's fully extensible. You can use any of the plugins, hooks, and decorators, and it's really straightforward to build what you need from a business perspective. You can use TypeScript, which is great. Of course, we want to be able to use TypeScript for safety purposes. Lots of plugins. Schema-based request validation, very helpful. That means that it's going to give you, if you're building a REST API and you're building a business and you want it to be valid, that's fantastic. It goes beyond this too. You can, it is a JSON format, sort of an object structure that allows you to define what that API is going to be accepting. So this is actually important because it's going to add a little bit extra restrictions on the API, so that way it makes it easier for your end users to know when they've made a mistake by accident. There's built-in logging capabilities and dependency injection mechanism, making it easy for you to sort of build in sort of like a hierarchy that allows you to do certain things for every single API call. Allows you to leverage different kinds of logging systems and metrics-based systems. So it's actually kind of everything you really need as a foundation. And it's well suited for projects where low latency and high concurrency with minimal overhead are critical requirements. And I do have to say, that's kind of the majority of the internet these days. Though, it is possible that you would have a business project that won't need that level of scale. It is very possible that you wouldn't need that. In that case, if you are not looking for a high scale, you don't need something that's really performant, NestJS is going to be the best option for you there. So Fastify is preferred for developing real-time applications, microservices architectures, so systems internal. If you're building internal systems, microservices architecture, Fastify is going to be your best choice. If you're building APIs for yourself or for your customers, use Fastify. Anything that needs to be scalable or is performance sensitive, Fastify is the best choice. And just seeing what they showed on Reddit, it seems like if you're going to start building a web server today, the framework that you would want to use is definitely going to be Fastify. When you're building a REST API for microservices, then you might be looking at routing. Routing is going to be the number one thing that you sort of deal with when it comes to handling requests as data comes into your microservices API endpoint or web server in general. It's like when you're using Fastify, you're going to want to be able to route those requests to the right area in your business logic. And Fastify has a couple of ways to do that. They have route methods to configure the endpoints of your application. There's two ways to do it, to declare with a route with Fastify. The shorthand, the easy way, and the full declaration, which is going to provide extra annotations around the API call in terms of restrictions and what you're expecting to get from it. I like the shorthand method, of course, because it's less text. It's a lot easier. And so when we're really looking at all the possible route options, we're really talking about request methods or HTTP verbs. These are going to be delete, get, head, patch, post, put, option search, trace, prop find, prop patch, MK call, copy, move, lock, unlock, report, MK calendar. Okay, we're getting a little we're going crazy here. We don't need all these when we're dealing with normal REST API applications. Typically delete, get, patch and post maybe are going to be as far as you need to go. You don't need put, usually you don't need put, but put is a verb that is a request to overwrite all the data of an entity regardless of what's there before. So it's kind of like a delete all data and then only save this information kind of command. So it's a rare condition, though it could happen. You never know. So let's look at, I want to just look at directly the easy option. So here's the hard option, just a whole bunch of stuff, right? Let's look at the shorthand. That's much nicer. I know what's going on here. So fastify.get, fastify.post, then the path, and then my handler. I don't need anything in my options. I just need my handler and my path. So here is an example. This is the extra part, which you don't need. You can just leave this part empty. The options, the schema, the response, expected response type, what's going to be the response data, and the properties. So you could do that to add extra, benefit to your API and to your end users, though I would say you don't need it when you're getting started. Just work with this line here. So you can say here the / endpoint, the / path is going to send hello world as a JSON object back. That's super simple. That's super clean. And then if I wanted to change it, the request verb or the HTTP verb or the request method, I would just change this get to a post or a put or a patch, kind of whatever you want. There's also a neat one. There was a .all. which is interesting. It's kind of interesting. So basically, any kind of request method, whatever the verb is, the request method, it doesn't matter. You can use a .all to apply sort of a global handler, which is kind of neat. So if you're building an API that is just super simple and it doesn't really have anything beyond, like say for example, the request methods, the verbs, they don't matter that much. A .all would work here as well. Fastify is a fantastic web framework that we can use to build URL paths. It lets us provide a whole bunch of different ways to define what a path looks like and capture the data from within the path. And this is the way that you would do it. And they make it so easy and so clean. Look at how wonderful they do at keeping it concise and simple. So we got fastify.get, which is the get verb or the HTTP request method. And we got example / example and then a user ID. See how it's got this colon right here. It's going to represent data that we want to capture into a variable user ID. So you can do something like this where the request params have been parsed. It's going to capture the user ID in the URL and then make that available to you by fetching it from the request.params. That's fantastic. That's a really helpful framework feature. You can do the same thing with multiple variables in the URL path, such as user ID and secret token, for example, and then you can fetch that data looking like this, defining a user ID, a secret token from the request parameters. And then you can also define a URL path using a wildcard or this star token here, and you can say fastify.get / example / star, and that will capture everything beyond that URL. So that way you can route all API calls from that URL path, matching this pattern into this handler, which is really helpful and really beneficial. You can even use regular expressions. Really? Okay. All right. And then you can capture data. That is interesting. Okay. So, wow, that's really powerful. That's good because that will help prevent the user from doing some nasty things. Because if they upload a file with a bunch of characters that might create escape scenarios, you don't want to do that. You want to protect yourself. So anything we're doing with files names, when it's going to go to disk, you want to protect yourself. So it's actually kind of a neat way to see that from that perspective. All right, let's get our hands on the keyboard. We'll actually try it out ourselves. We'll copy some of the code from the quick start guide and build ourselves our own web server using Fastify and Node.js. It's actually pretty straightforward what they do. I love this framework because it's so clean and simple. They make it really easy. Let's get started. All we have to do is npm install Fastify. Let's do that really quick. So I'm going to copy this data over to my web terminal. And then I've got my own little directory set up here. So I'll npm install Fastify, and this will install my dependencies. And one of the things that they promised was that there is very few dependencies that are going to be involved in this scenario. So let's see if oh, we got an error. All right, 1 second. Okay, of course, I just had to initialize first npm init, and then just create. Basically, it was looking for a package.json file. So I've got I did an install of Fastify. It's there. I'm very curious what's in the node modules directory. Is it a whole bunch of things? There's quite a few things in here. It does look like it's pretty lightweight. It's very often you find this directory just explodes. So it does look like they have quite a bit involved, but it's not as much as you'd get something with like Express, for example, or Nest. Those frameworks are going to install a lot more heavy dependencies. So we can actually get started with our index.json. So let's actually... we want they gave us a tutorial, so we can actually walk through this tutorial here really quick. We are going to copy this data. We're going to be using an ES module, so I know I'm going to have to update my package.json file to account for this, but let's go ahead and copy and paste this and see how it goes. So I'm going to pv paste index.js. Then I need to make sure, because it's an ES module, to add this to my package.json as my package.json. So it's got to be type module. So let's do that really quick here. Vi package.json. And I go in here and type. There we go. So I've added the type here. So now I should be able to npm start See if that does it. Oh, I hope it works. Oh, another error. Okay, hold on a second. Of course, I was skipping ahead. I need to add the start command to npm in my scripts section here. So let's go ahead and do that as well. I'm gonna grab that here by package.json. In my scripts, and we're gonna paste that over here. Gonna make sure that we've got comma. All right, so now we've got a start, so I can run npm start to make it really easy. So it seems like that's the way to do it. Start in Fastify start. I believe I called it index.js. I'm pretty sure I called it index. Yes, okay. Let's try it. npm start. Is it gonna work this time? And oh, of course. I love reading these docs. I go through them and then I just keep jumping around and then I keep trying until something works, but here we go. So I just obviously need to install the Fastify CLI, and I will also want to add a -g flag. So let's make sure we do that as well here. So npm install, I'm going to do -g, and then we should be able to get that up and running here in a second. All right, we did it. We installed it. It should work now. Let's try npm start. Did we get it? Is it going to work this time? We'll find. Oh, I think it did it. I think it's working. Okay, finally. Oh. All right, I figured it out. It's right here. Dang it. The code on Fastify's website for the quick start actually has a bug, and it's right here. We are double defining the Fastify constant variable. That is very annoying. All right, so we're not using CommonJS, so we don't need that because we are using ESM. So now it's finally gonna work this time, right? No, come on. All right, let's figure out what happened. What's wrong this time? All right, it's the thing. It's the same problem that we've been running into. We just got to read the documentation. That's the trick. So this will be our server. We need to export the module using async in this fashion. So I just copied and pasted this. I do believe this is going to be our new. I didn't call it server.js. I called it index.js. So let's see what that looks like now. Pasted that. So if I open up index.js. This is our new server, very simple. We're going to return hello world. And now I can say npm start. Are we going to work this time? I don't know. Hopefully not. Okay, let's figure out what's it. You know, I was so excited about this, and I'm running into all these problems. Obviously, read the documentation, though it should be a lot easier to not run into problems. Well, I do see that is no longer, okay. So maybe in this scenario, we don't need this. All right, let's try it. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? Please work this time. Oh, it didn't crash. It didn't crash. Okay, we did it. All right, this is fantastic. Okay, so I should be able to cd http. I should be able to. Now, what port are we running on? Do we know what port we're running on? All right, let's find out here really quick. cd, we're going Fastify by index. I have no idea. We're gonna have to see what the default port is. I found it. It's port 3000. Okay, so and it works. Check it out. Okay, it was all right. Now I'm really happy because not only do I have a much cleaner starting point, as you can see here, I have my server code up here in the top right, and I've got just a simple get. And it's using async await, which I really, really like. It's a much cleaner syntax. And then I'm accepting requests on the / path, just the hello world, using a get verb. And then I can even do the same thing if I wanted for a post. So I should be able to say post. It's pretty straightforward from that perspective. And then I could do this like this, and X post, and I should see a hello world post. Let's just do something like that. I'm hacking the server really quick. Let's restart our server and then issue this API call. Am I going to see hello world post? I do. Okay, that's fantastic. This is exactly what we wanted. And we can also do the same thing if you want to delete, although that is a keyword. That is a keyword right there. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know. Let's try it out. Let's see if that works. If I know how to get around it, otherwise delete. All right. So let's restart our server and then issue a delete API call against our Fastify delete. Is it? Yeah, works. Okay, perfect. It did what I wanted it to do. This is great. So now I can have all of my API endpoints and also specify the request type, the request method. The HTTP verb can be done using this method. Using Fastify, the code is so clean, it's so simple. You can see I'm returning data. I'm listening on port 3000. This is amazing. This is actually really powerful. It's so easy to get set up and running, and the code is so small. It's a really easy argument to choose, if your team uses JavaScript, to choose Fastify as your next web framework of choice.